Hi, my name is Gilles Housammann. I am your host for this summit, The Empowered Human. Move beyond your limitations and fulfill your soul's purpose while experiencing joy, abundance, and love. I've been drawn to organize this show because of a heart's call, and the two words that come to my mind when I think about that, this is love. And the other one, I just had to search a little bit in my memory for that one. This is unity. And we have this love in our heart, but we close our heart. So I just felt that it was so important to open up our heart in order to let this light, this love, flow outside of the heart into the world. So while you are typing, we just listen to that. You are looking for something. And the other one, it's unity. And I have this strong call to bring back unity. So I don't know yet exactly what it is, but it is unfolding in my life. Like, okay, we have to reunite what has been separated. And so this is my big heart's call to organize this show. And it is a pleasure to welcome you on this show, Samavesha. I will call you by your full name, Samavesha Gayatri Moksha Devi. It's very
Wow.
so I can read it on the screen, so it's easy for me to say it when I can read it. I will present you briefly to the viewers so they can,
Thank you.
they can know a little bit more about you. Samavesha Moksha Gayatri-Devi, you are the founder of the Divine Union Foundation Institute. You are a divine destiny activator, holistic lawyer for our soul, Akashic intuitive, archetypal oracle, shamanic wisdom keeper, master facilitator, and you hold rites of passage. You are a rare visionary with the holographic intelligence to see humanity's true potential in synergistic balance with our evolving planet.
Yes.
Through a lifetime of mystical experiences and extensive rigorous training, you have developed the extraordinary capacity to synthesize the original totality of any system, individual, individual or collective, into cohesive wholeness. Devi, you mentor adepts to rapidly realize their primary purpose within the deeper spectrum of the soul's hero or heroine's journey. Your powerful gifts restore one's authentic mastery, presence, and clarity for comprehensive solutions to the significant challenges we are facing globally. As a result of multiple near-death experiences, your unique abilities elicit the dormant resources and inherent potential within leaders in order to catalyze successful models for a more integral world.
Yes. Thank you.
Devi, your remarkable mission is dedicated to supporting a new emerging paradigm where essential aspects of society abundantly thrive with the vast intelligence of nature and Gaia's, our planet, own regenerative blueprint and codes for awakening. You are a master key code for the embodiment of heaven on earth, and your sessions are a fusion of many modern and ancient mystical lineages to assist the individual in rapidly returning to that true soul's capacity and throne of destiny. Through the ultimate divine laws, you are able to assist your clients to access and integrate their original divine design, restoring initiates back into alignment with their true life's purpose. Many whom have worked with you equate your abilities to the same potential of a saint, the Dalai Lama, the Holy Grail, or an ayahuasca ceremonial experience. So it's powerful. You are truly a master, deliberately sent back to assist humanity in coming back home to its true plan of ascendant magnificence. Wow. What a pleasure to welcome you.
Thank you for finding me. I am here because of you.
Yes.
And I am here because of your mission. So thank you for being who you are and presencing the gifts that you embody for us here all around the world.
Yes, it's like a coincidence, as if, yeah, we say that in French, that coincidence is the when God doesn't want to be seen. It's his disguise.
Synchronicity.
Yeah, coincidence is the disguisement of God. So I am here because of this connection. Because when I visited the internet and I found your website, and it was like, oh, very interesting. There's something here, and the connection was. I didn't read all of it, but it was like I saw Earth, and it was okay. I saw roots. It was okay. I need to go there. So maybe I found some roots with you, and there is something that I needed to. Do you use the word in English to deep our root? What's the name for that? To ground. I needed
to ground and to anchor and to root the spirit.
Yes.
More into the physical for divine union.
Yes. So it's a pleasure, and I can tell the viewers that I needed to marry again, to reunite with one of my aspects, which is the elven aspect, the elf, another world, let's say another realm on Earth. And I had this strong heart's desire to reconnect, to reunite with my elven aspect. So it was the opportunity to work with you.
Thank you. The ancients referred to it as the great alchemy. And one of the words for yoga is the alchemical union of all that we are. And so this love and this joy that you are in these different facets of your diamond body or your diamond consciousness, one gem, right, with all these other reflections, it's all the same unified field. So whether your heart is speaking of it as the poetry, right, of the reunion process with your own soul and your own body, or the quantum physics terminology of a synthesized or composite intelligence that's establishing its cohesion and its wholeness. These are the cellular activations of an awakening, embodied and empowered divine human, because that's where the species is going. And you're absolutely an amazing instrument for this transformation.
And so are you, because without you, we wouldn't be here. So we need us, we are all one part of this divine tapestry, and one piece is missing. There is something missing.
Yes. And oftentimes these aspects are hidden in the subconscious or the unconscious body mind, and they're just screaming, right, to return and to represence that intimacy. And in other traditions, it's called the Tantra with your own soul. And in terms of the romancing of the beloved that you are, creation gave us this massive diversity so that we could have this huge multidimensional heart. Our capacity to experience love with ourselves and all those other continuums is limitless, literally infinite. And so through that willingness to recover, reclaim, return to thyself, thy original divine blueprint, that means every color. That means every strand. That means every thread of the great weave of the one hoop. And that's like the totality of the I am consciousness, indwelling and cohabitating, fully co-presencing within what I call the body temple. So even if the viewers are hearing terminology, right, because I use language in a way that's coded, it may not necessarily instantaneously make sense to the mind. And yet language as poetry, language as an art form, right, is a message to the heart of the hearts, to remember, to realign, to remember and realign all the different quadrants. In the medicine wheel of life, we have the north and the south and the east and the west, and we were just talking about the beauty of the 4 different seasons. And so a lot of us have mastery in certain areas of ourselves. And then there's other areas where it's not as integrated. And so the empowered divine human is embodying their full balance through all the different quadrants of our consciousness. And that means it's okay to have areas of strength, and it's okay to have areas, deep areas of vulnerability, where those aspects have experienced significant trauma in other timelines, in other realities, in other lifetimes, because it's all happening now. And a part of the gift of the sacred feminine to the human race is that we're midwives of bringing this love current, right? Wherever you kind of got temporarily lost or distracted in any of those spectrums, that all of these levels would be able to be reunited as one happy family, right? Or one grand council. Talked about the United Nations for the soul inside of our cell structures, inside of our anatomy and our physiology and our blood and our bones. And that's why it kind of feels like a marriage ceremony. And yet we're not marrying an outside person, we're marrying or represencing our commitment to ourselves.
Yeah, there's
the great. The alchemist's magnum opus.
There's something that I missed in your explanation. This is I know that the feminine is now very important. I can feel it myself. But what role is the feminine playing right now? It is helping us to find the right balance, because it was like we were always moving like that, from the power of the feminine to the power of the masculine, but not finding like the alignment to unify.
Yes. And as you saw, when my body took that long pause, right, I was accessing that realignment in the listening field for all of us to know that each and every one of us literally has the mother and the father within our spiritual physiology as much as our physical anatomy. In Asia, it's the yin and the yang. To the naturalists, it's the sun and the moon, right? To other traditions, it's the Shiva and the Shakti. And for human systems to model heaven on earth, there must be that restructuring that brings the original divine balance in the as above and has it presence itself in the so below. So that means we're not a matriarchy anymore, and we're not a patriarchy anymore. We're just transcending these old systems and coming into the true tantric manifestation of the balanced principles of both primal energies, right? The lunar and the solar, that's equally present in all of us that are choosing this sacred androgyny. It doesn't mean that we lose the fact that we came in, right, as a particular gender. And yet, as Carl Jung said, every woman comes in with her inner divine masculine. Every man comes in with his inner divine feminine, the anima and the animus in transpersonal psychology. And this is our baseline. And so when we're relating to another human being, we see them through that lens of what I call the sacred marriage. That's the whole being. And so it's not a partnership with something that's the reflection in the mirror. It's the partnership with the relationship of that holy mirror inside of us as the God and the goddess of all that is. So it's pretty ancient, and we're just bringing it back and represencing it as the species is going through its metamorphosis and ascension process. Thank you for presencing that.
Yes, and I am feeling that because as a man, I have this energy, this masculine energy, but I worked very, very much on my feminine energies. I accepted this energy because I am very sensitive. So this is the feminine, which is who is expressing itself herself. I would say I love to call it like that. So I can feel that we are becoming. You use the word androgen. What's the word in English?
Sacred androgyny.
Sacred androgyny.
The holy hermaphrodite.
Yes, yes, and I can feel that because these two energies, both energies, are very present. I can feel like, okay, now I have to take care back to my masculine energies because I looked at my feminine very much, but now I have to be very careful to my masculine energies back into my power in order to align all of these steps.
Yes. In terms of individuals fulfilling their true life purpose, they're going to absolutely require both the power of the sacred feminine and the power of the sacred masculine, fully functional, fully operational, fully engaged, fully activated in their body, mind, heart, and soul on every level. Because to have the clarity of your life purpose and yet not have the cellular integration to support that inspired action out in the external world, then there's going to be an incongruity. And so many people have Akashic readings where they're told their life purpose, right, by the oracle or by the mystic, and yet they don't feel a deep connection to it inside of their body yet, right? It's already a divine truth. And so the feminine midwives, right, the ambassadors of the mother's womb, basically birth people into the fulfillment of their dharma because it's already pre-existing. That truth is pulsing through literally every system of their internal structure. And yet if it hasn't been encouraged, if it hasn't been witnessed, if it hasn't been woven through all their different levels, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, then there's not the congruence available to empower that engine to stand up in the truth and the authenticity of their legacy in their life. So most individuals are quite aware of why they're here. They're completely cognizant of their true calling, and yet they're not fully 100% yes, head to toe, right? Like maybe 25% of them is yes, and then the other 75 still says, well, the last time I tried that on this planet, right, I ended up being deleted and crossed over, right, into the other dimensions. So there's been a tremendous amount of resistance, right, in the previous cultures to the star seeds, to the way showers, to the ambassadors, to the emissaries that are birthing, right, the awakened earthen consciousness. And so now there's this tremendous request for support structures so that those individuals that are willing to bravely be those pioneers, to bravely be those stewards of what has been ordained and divinely designed all along in this particular incarnation. So in some sense, everyone who's listening to this broadcast is a part of this commitment and this resolve to bring it all the way through to what we would call graduation. And that graduation isn't necessarily reserved for just avatars. We can have more souls that actually complete their assignment on the earthen plane in this epic journey than ever before in the history and her story of the human race. And some people would say that that's a bold statement, and yet this is part of what I saw in my near-death experiences. Please go back and close out what you would call the cycles of reincarnation. And I said, well, how do you close out the cycles of reincarnation? Well, the soul graduates when it fulfills its ultimate destiny. So everyone just needs to come into the full expression of their original divine gifts, and then there's the great graduation, and then you don't need to come back and reincarnate, right? And so that's flying in the face of a lot of spiritual programming that says, you know, oh, I have to pay off all my karmic debts. And it's like, no, 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 no. Keep your eye and your heart and your womb and your hara on the Dharma. Fulfill thy Dharma. And that is the graduation point. That is not just joy, that's ecstasy, right? That's not just love, that's awe, right? That's not just union, that's miraculous. And so the highest frequency that I really turn to is what I call the arc of grace. It's like, how are we going to pull this off, right? The ascension didn't work in every other lifetime. And so why is this the one? Magic and miracles and grace is in the house, right? So another girlfriend of mine uses the term holy rebel, right? Why is it possible? Because we say so. And because we're being, you know, courageous enough to come into that full embodiment so that we have all of the wherewithal and all of the repertoire inside of ourselves to truly galvanize this initiative through every molecule and every circuit. And so that's where the Chinese medicine and the yogic medicine teach us that we have all these pathways of light in our body. And if only 35% of those pathways of light are running, then boy, we got to open up some freeways of energy, of kundalini, of shakti, of multidimensional love and joy in the cell structures. And these instruments that we have that have been given to us as a gift from Mother, Father, Earth, they are meant to carry tremendous volumes and velocity of light, if we so choose to experiment and go into that uncharted territory and rewire our ancestral conditioning and rewire our previous set points, right? And give ourselves full permission to basically jump off the cliff and fly. So in some sense, this is the butterfly moment for our race, where you just commit to put your caterpillar self in the chrysalis and know that on the other side, you're going to come out with wings.
I love that. I love that. And what comes to my mind right now, it's what you said. I don't remember exactly, but it's okay. I just have to give me the permission. Okay, because we are creators, so everything is possible. Make sense?
And it's a resounding yes. The possibility reverberates as a resounding yes all the way down, right, into the navel and into, right, the dantian and into the hip flexors and into the pelvic girdle, basically into the lower chakras. That full yes has got to be first, second, third chakra. So many people are a full yes from the heart up. And it's like the total yes is from the heart down as much as it's from the heart up. And, you know, certain people prize the upper chakras more than they do, you know, the basal human instinct. And I'm like, there is no greater force than our sexual creative energy that's being funneled for the fulfillment of our divine plan. Nobody thinks of eroticism in terms of, you know, fulfilling my divine mission. Right? So this is where the dakinis came from. And it's like, this isn't lust, folks. This is a deep attraction, right? Pouring through our cells and basically saying, I'm choosing to manifest and give myself permission to exude the full totality of all of my divine abilities and all of my divine gifts and all of my divine faculties in a way that's open and public and transparent and fully integrative with all of life's systems, willing to be seen, willing to be felt, because there's that attractor factor, not for a person or not for reality, attractor factor for the fulfillment of my original covenant with this planet. And so that in my end of life review, so to speak, right, when I'm on the other side and I'm looking back at the legacy of my lineage, I can go like, I so went for it. I gave it my all. And I even exceeded my own expectations because I didn't do it alone. right? We're meant to fulfill this vision that we came here to be in a cooperative. So that's no more individual destinies. And that's what your summit is really exemplifying here, that you're bringing all these amazing individuals together and we're collectively transmitting, right, this offering to the wider world as a partnership culture, as a partnership team, and that these individuals are highlighting each other's mastery, right? It's the principles of co-creation. Same thing inside of ourselves, what we're demonstrating with those around us. So it's really exciting because there's more co-participatory models than ever before. Mm. Usually you would see individuals, coming into the fulfillment of their success as solo, right? Teachers or healers or carriers of sacred traditions. And now we're realizing as a species that there's these complementary components that physically fit together as one master puzzle. And that's our greatest quantum leap of how do we fulfill the destiny of we, rather than how do I fulfill the destiny of me. And I would say the fully empowered human is able to honor and support one's own destiny and dharma and life purpose and mission just as much as you uplift and empower another. And that it creates this collective, galvanized, and enriched rising, right? I call it the phoenix rising, not the phoenix rising as an individual, the phoenix rising as a village, as a soul family, as a soul group. And that's how the star people live, right? We don't have individual consciousnesses. What's the singular person that doesn't exist? We're completely telepathically connected to our entire family. So the human being is unique in that we have this free will, and we can say, I will, too will, thy will. I will, too will, thy will, for the greater good. And that is a very mature place to come from. If we want to look at, where this family of relations around the world can travel. In Africa, they call it Ubuntu. I am because we are. And Nelson Mandela just is the pinnacle of that for all of the African people when they had to go through such devastating separation through apartheid. And he basically said the only thing that's going to put this nation back together again is the principle of Ubuntu. So if we come back to these core values that have been, anchored for us by our ancestral lineages of light, then the resources are really here for us to pick up again in a new way. Not go about Ubuntu the way that it was practiced 6,000 years ago. How is Ubuntu practiced today? So I offer to all the listeners my Ubuntu heart. I am because we are, and my destiny is connected to your destiny. And there's a collective dharma that we be. And that is that multidimensional perspective. That's so inclusive.
I love that. And I love the way you can put that into words. I could do that in French. In English, it would be a little bit difficult for me. But yes, I have this vision of I have it's all together. Now it's all together. It's partnership and it's all together. And I have this vision of building a pillar of light. And this is because we are doing it all together, connecting our energies and our intentions in doing that from the heart. And
And for this pillar that you're an active agent for, to truly thrive, it's extremely valuable for every individual to realize that this pillar is also indwelling. And that the integration of our indwelling pillar,
what is it? So, excuse me, what is it, indwelling? What does it mean?
Indwelling, it means that every time you go into that meditative space, and you feel all that energy and frequency and vibration cascading through your body like a waterfall. And you turn all your attention into the indwelling, right, radiance of the light within you. It means that we're 100% focused on our inner wholeness, 100% focused on our internal union. And that's why all of the mystical contemplative practices have us, like, for whatever duration, quiet the external so that we can really develop that internal, what I call the figure eight, right, of all aspects coming together in the infinity of the one being that we are across all of our extensions. So the indwelling basically says, I may have 100,000 aspects, and yet because of the principle of the one hologram, all 100,000 aspects are united as one unified presence, as much as they are also simultaneously 100,000 individual aspects, which might sound like a bit of a paradox. It's just the one is in the whole and the whole is in the one. The empowered divine human is actually an embodied hologram. And that's what they mean by holographic consciousness. How could we all be one and separate? And well, welcome to the genius of the hologram. The one is in the whole and the whole is in the one. And the indwelling is that hologram integrated inside of ourselves so that we can engage it and experience it on the outside of ourselves. Like, hey, you're a part of me and I'm a part of you. Good to see you again.
So that's why you were talking about that. You were saying that the importance of, okay, we're building together this huge pillar of light.
Yes.
We get to, feel it, anchor it in our body in order to build it all together around the world.
Yes. The animals are loving the energy. Sorry. They're like running around everywhere because they're so excited. So I feel their enthusiasm. They're four-legged kitties. The degree to which we experience that sacred marriage inside of ourselves is the degree to which we can collaborate and co-create with others inside of the pillar. And so that's why in the shamanic tradition, soul retrieval is so pivotal, right? And now it's at the level of quantum soul retrieval. Maybe you have, 68,000 aspects that were temporarily displaced because of, some atrocity that happened, say, for instance, in Atlantis, right? Or in Egypt, or, any of these big cultural markers. And it takes a tremendous amount of power and love and commitment and devotion to then just say, okay, 68,000 aspects are now going to be rewoven, right, through grandmother spider, back into the one tree of life, the tree of love, the tree of grace, the tree of union that I am in my origins. Because the innocence, the original innocence when we came in was that pure and pristine connection to our full self. And then through all the different gradations of all the different lifetimes, right, we've kind of traveled and had this huge out-breath. And now humanity's in the process of the in-breath. And all of these faculties and facets now coming back together again with all of the wisdom earned and learned through all of the initiations, right? The hero and the heroine's journeys. And then some people have referred to their true designation as their embodied higher self council. The higher self isn't one being. The higher self is a council, right? And that overlights us and aids and assists us to presence the cooperation between the as above and the so below, or the branches of the tree of life and the roots of the tree of life. And we're the trunk. We're the marriage of the as above and the so below, perfectly partnering and creating this draw, creating this magnetic fusion.
Yes. I love how you present it because it's as if I can feel it in my body. So the images are very clear. It's like, okay, I am this tree of life. Yes. So I can breathe, and oh, I have to bring this meditation I practice, which I call the breathe of light, the breathing of light. And it's the same movement. It's from the heart, breathe out, and expand to the infinite big. And from the infinite big, I can breathe in the light and bring back all my memories into my heart. And this is the place of transmutation. This is the center of alchemy, the heart. We can just transmute everything. So it's like, okay, you are doing the same. We speak, words are quite different. So this is really interesting. I love that. I love that.
So I get to reflect it back to you. So you have the great pleasure, right? That
Yes.
we're absolutely a part of the same team. And those of us that are, aspects of the same team will tap into the same technologies, light technologies, and incorporate them. We'll have our slightly different styles, and then we'll feel the parallels. And it's important to remember that the womb and the hara and the dantian, that feeds the heart. So yes, the heart is the apex, right, of all the upper chakras and all the lower chakras, right, with the meeting ground. And it's just as important to feel it through the heart hara and the heart womb, because that's the power that moves up into the love. And then this is the wisdom. So it's power, love, and wisdom coursing through our veins so that we can be in that integrative system and that integrative circuitry, because it takes all those, right, different aspects to function together to get anything done. Try accomplishing something with power without wisdom. Try accomplishing, love without power. They're just incomplete formulas.
Perfect. I can feel that. Yes, it makes sense. It makes so much sense. It's like, okay, I got some missing pieces, and it's interesting. Just okay, I can understand how it works now. Great. So I'm not saying I got everything, but I feel this in my body that, okay, it makes totally sense. And now I can move in my creations, in my creation with so much power, wisdom, and love, because I know that where they are. I know I've made of that 3 centers of power, so it makes sense. So thank you. Thank you for this.
Yes, the ancient Celts, right, they have the triquetra, they have the triskel, and that's the 3 spirals, right, or the 3 branches. And so that trinity, wisdom, power, and love all together, and some people call it the tripartite flame of the mother and the father and the divine child. We will see these trinities, right, over and over and over again for true balance. And so that means that all that is the divine father within my body, all that is the divine mother within my body, and then the central channel, the Sushumna in Egypt, the rising of the Jed. That's where you become the Jedi, the fully integrated, fully married, fully fused totality of all of our yang and all of our yin, and the third great mystery, the third great force of where they completely integrate and partner in this pranic central column and tube of light. And that's where you get the Kundalini awakening. And so if every human being was running on their divine power grid systems in their cellular anatomy, like the old systems would just collapse. Because nobody's plugging in to those old agreement fields. Because everyone's circuitry would be completely reattuned to their original divine connection. And then the illusions of the artificial constructs around us, right, that are different veils of forgetting or amnesia or separation, they wouldn't have any infrastructure to keep playing out those old games. And then the archetypes can include and transcend, as they say in integral theory. It's not an either or, it's a both and. And that means that there's a place for the shadow to come home, because the shadow will be met with the gift. And the gift is so spectacular that it balances out the shadow, and then the soul just goes like, oh, what incredible divine magic, that even my shadow aspects had a divine purpose. But one has to be willing to look into the mystery to uncover that, right? So it's kind of like every rite of passage, no matter how difficult, can actually yield an amazing and exceptional gift as a result of the initiatory experience. And so as these aspects come back, right, I take them through the purification chambers, right, because they deserve an opportunity to come back to their original innocence. And in that space of original innocence, to then tell their story of like, well, what did you learn? What was the quest? What happened? And then what was the ultimate result, right? And that ultimate result really reveals itself when we have the valor, VALOR, which is bravery and courage, to let these aspects come home inside of ourselves and remember the original divine purpose of that quest, no matter how difficult. And that's where we get the unconditional self-love. You know, most people come to me and they don't even know that they're frozen, right, in a million lifetimes, because it was just too overwhelming, and they completely disassociated and checked out of their body. And, you know, so they admire all of these altruistic virtues and principles, and yet they don't have access to it so much, you know, in their kidney or in their liver or in their, you know, tailbone or in their knees or their legs or their toes, right? And so there's this open-hearted invitation to every aspect. We love you. I love you. Life loves you. Consciousness loves you unconditionally. Just come back home so that you can see the miracle of that emerging throne of destiny that you represent. Allow that alchemical equation to travel through the inner cellular body so that the gift can finally be harnessed and received. And it takes commitment and it takes devotion, because some of these aspects are really, really scary. And a lot of people have guilt and shame about things that have happened. And, you know, in all honesty, it wasn't really their fault. We've had tremendous interference with the human race. And so we're just rewriting the scripts and rewriting those scripts in unity consciousness, because we've already played out all these other versions. And now it's just the great homecoming. Welcome home. So good to see you again. And that is a sincere invitation, right? And the shadow will test it of like, I don't know if you're capable of really loving me. And the full embodied love is a laser of truth and says, oh yes, I see you. I see you, and I see your true indwelling potential. And I believe in that latent awakening that you represent for the greater good. So any one of us, quote unquote, even if you identify yourself as a light worker, okay, I'm encouraging the word union worker, because when the light and shadow come back together again, and the gifts of this synthesis and alchemy of opposites can explode inside of the inner depths of our heart, we actually go into nirvanic orgasmic grace. Because the shadow has felt so disowned, it's felt so denied, it's felt so repressed, it hasn't felt accepted. And when those aspects come back into receivership, the relief and the flooding, right, of not just joy, but also complete and total nirvana. So people have gone into like orgasmic or nirvanic experiences with me, and it's just because I can love all of their light as much as I love all of their dark. And they never thought, right, that actually all of it in grand totality, when the light and the dark come together, they form pure crystal. So the empowered divine human is a crystalline matrix, no longer just light, nor dark. It is the unified metamorphosis of the crystalline grids. And that is scientifically being proven, right? Because we have all of these light codes opening up and crystalline codes like opening up in our DNA structures. And you can see it, right? More spirit is infusing into matter. So there's my welcome mat. You know, if you're going to be so bold and you're going to bring back all that you are, then know that you are well rewarded if you can admit to yourself your shadow and find the treasures in it, as much as you can acknowledge yourself for your radiance and your light.
I love that. I love that. And you speak the same language because these words are the words I used also, the shadow and the light. And I would say that I can't be complete if I don't love my shadow. It's part of myself. So I have to love my shadow if I want to be complete. I won't be complete if I don't. So, yeah.
Yes. And the shadow aspects are still on their hero and heroine's journey. And all shadow aspects, as they complete their rites of passage, bring through these huge transformational gifts. So our original consciousness would never label anything, right, as light or shadow. It would just say that there is a fullness of the complete and total journey that's still inviting itself, right, to come into that complete self-actualization with the appropriate support and assistance, because it can be quite overwhelming, right, navigating that territory by yourself. Nor would I recommend it. You know, a consciousness is no less powerful if it asks for support. I think the most powerful beings are smart enough to ask for support, and support in a way that's witnessing, not doing. Because I would never tell anybody that I was a healer. Your own higher self is the healer. I'm the midwife, right, that's aiding and assisting the divine miracle that's already in process.
I know that, yes. We are the creator. We have the power inside of us. And so it's about facilitating as the midwife does. So, yeah, I love that. And we talked about you talked about the resistances we can have because of the shadow aspects and the gifts that are hidden behind those resistances, behind those shadows aspect. And there is a lot of resistances in one's rite of passage. So it takes courage. It takes courage and persistence to go through that. And the heart, this is like, okay, trust and faith, because behind that there is so much bliss, as you mentioned, so much grace, so much fulfillment. Makes sense? And
perfect sense.
So, yeah, maybe there are people that don't want to go into the shadow. I can see around me people that, oh no, these aspects, I don't want to look at them. But you put them aside and they are more present in your life because they want to be loved. So they come in front and say, okay, I want to be loved. And so you can put them aside. So.
The one caveat, right, or beautiful hint that I'll mention here is that if we realize that any of the shadow aspects are simply a drop in the bucket, when we fully notice the splendor and the massive, inclusive totality of all of our consciousness, then it's easily and effortlessly understandable that these extensions are returning into something so much greater. And so what I do remember in my near-death experiences is that most of the mystery schools that trained humanity in these rites of passage had to go underground, right? Because the human race wasn't quite ready to, quote unquote, have them on the corner like Starbucks. And that these schools of mastery would be uncovered when the initiate was ready to take the deep dive, right? And go into that cave, as Joseph Campbell says, of our greatest fears. And yet to know and have the training, first and foremost, that there's great treasures in there. So it's the complete reframe. It's allowing ourselves to see that what we're bringing to that cave is the full grandeur. And that's a balanced approach. So it's not just loving those aspects from our individuated self. It's loving those aspects from our multidimensional self. And that's really the evolutionary cusp, so that when people can get present to the fact that they are an angelic human, as much as they have their human mother and father, we all have a divine mother and father, right? The supernal creator and creatrix of us all. They were called, the Alpha and the Omega in ancient times. And that's where that frequency of unconditional love is being showered upon us. And if we're not able to see ourselves in any single moment, we can ask and tilt our gaze upwards towards the lens of the perspective of our divine parents in heaven, that sees us in the truth of everything, every lifetime. And the film that shows this most beautifully is Cloud Atlas. And it shows the journeys of the souls, right? As they move through lifetime after lifetime of continuing to grow and develop and progress their consciousness. And something's observing the whole process, cheering everybody on. It's like the one witness that sees us all. And through the lens of the one witness that sees us all, it's already done. It's no big deal. Those aspects can come back home in a nanosecond. Because we know, right, from the greater framework, that there's this massive field of divine love that's embracing everything that we are. And humanity is not accustomed to that, right? Because that's seeing our life through the lens of heaven, seeing our life through the lens of Mother, Father, God, seeing ourselves through the gaze of heaven. You must look at your life through the eyes of heaven.
I love that. I love that, because this is exactly what I would say. I know that because it's like being on a bike and looking at your steering. I mentioned that with you before. But when you are biking and you are in doing your job, breathing and not looking at the way. Oh God, yes, there's so much beautiful things to see, and okay, my perspective has changed. This is exactly that. I can relate to that. Yes, sure. Oh, you are gone. So, oh my God. So little interruptions. So I have to stop the recording, and we see us in a moment. So sorry for this interruption, and we are going to reconnect to what we were talking about, which was looking to what we are living to our lives through a lens of, I would say, universe, God, but something bigger than just our human eyes.
Yes. It's referred to as entering into your mythic life. And so most of us can feel in the great legends aspects of our own soul, which is why Maureen Murdoch wrote the book, The Heroine's Journey, and Joseph Campbell wrote the book, The Hero's Journey, because in these epic monumental myths and legends, we see ourselves reflecting back our journey to each other. And this is the access into the larger context of our lives. And for me, that's from the pre-birth planning councils. Some people may or may not remember, right, that we designed certain aspects of our journey even before we arrived. And so up there, quote unquote, in the planning committees, we're really observing the lay of the land, right? This adventure we're going to embark upon even before we're conceived or born in the womb of our human mother. And from this grand totality perspective, we design certain challenges and certain opportunities for ourselves to have huge growth and huge development. And the soul is so optimistic, right, of the greatest potential. And so there is an ambitiousness of the coming into the greater presencing of the totality of all of our lifetimes, because the lifetimes aren't individual experiences, they're a collective or a composite, right, database, so to speak. And so really what we're experiencing now as the sapien divinus, the full empowered divine human, is the homo luminous, which I talk about in my articles. It's the fully integrated being who is both here and now, and also in the transcendent and the immanent partnering together, the I am that I am. And so that as we're designing these journeys that we call lifetimes, they're not isolated from every other lifetime that we've ever had, regardless of the parts or the players that we've, demonstrated on the stage. It's all one great play. It's all one great theater of life. And in order to truly appreciate who we fully are, we must create the space to unify all of our lifetimes to actually get the big picture of who we truly be. Because if we try to just focus on, quote unquote, the good ones, and we don't get the insights and the epiphanies from the more challenging ones, then we're not with a full lens. And we're not then with our full comprehensive commitment that we made, quote unquote, before we ever arrived, to see this thing all the way through. And that's what some people call, the full pinnacle of the culmination of that graduation, which some refer to as the ascension principle. And for me, in my practice, I refer to it as the embodied ascension. And that when I've embodied my full ascension, that means all that I am across all my lifetimes is invited into the one heart that I am inside of this unified instrument for the manifestation of heaven on earth. Because heaven doesn't compartmentalize itself as the purgatory, right? And then praise. Every aspect of consciousness is on its journey. And so even those, quote unquote, that got stuck in what the Buddhists call the bardos, doesn't mean that they're permanently stuck there, right? We can have away teams and ambassadors, right? Travel into the bardos and find all those bardos aspects and say, have you had enough of the bardos? Would you like to come back and join the rest of the clan? We'd be so delighted to have you back. No shame. We'd be so delighted to have you back. Of course, you're going to ask, what did you learn? Right? And what have you discovered as a result of that experience about life and energy and consciousness? And yet this unconditional self-acceptance is the key when we have access to the entire map. And so that's part of going out of the box, so far out of the box, to be open to the absolute, and then to make the commitment to somehow give that absolution room and space to come back to the core of who we be. And that is an unprecedented moment in any soul's journey. And we never know when that spark, right, ignites as the sacred flame. And it takes tremendous humility. Most would think that that was an act of embodied divine power. Well, it is, and the truth be told, full embodied divine power is actually full embodied divine humility. And to bow our head before the totality and say, I am ready to come back home to all that I am. And this is not something that an individual is truly capable of. However, an individual can utilize that willingness and openness and receptivity and availability to invite it forth. And that's where invocation and prayer comes in. And our consciousness will respond to these authentic prayers for wholeness, because that's the only way we're going to build that pillar with each other. Because the wholeness of that empowered unity dwells within first and foremost, and then we can access it with our reflection.
Thank you for all this, let's call that journey we made together, because I received the images of that in my body in a certain manner. So it's like, I can feel that. So I know that. Thank you very much.
The only caveat that I will add that we were given from the technology cutting out is the creme de la creme, the secret of all secrets. The video cut out because what that means to the transmission is that we also must go back home to the void. We must go back home to 0 point. So that's what that, right, ritual is saying of how do you accomplish this? Well, it's through the re-entry into 0 point, right? The re-entry into void. That's where all aspects are reunited. And that's the complete, right, implosion for then the supernova, right, of the complete transfiguration. So may all the different faculties that are listening to this know that you are safe in that void, even though it may be completely a brand new experience of going quote unquote total black, right? And then re-emerging on a whole other level.
Thank you very much. And you have a free gift to offer the viewers.
Yes.
So can you present that to us, please?
Well, what I've done is basically summarized many of these rites of passage in an article that maps out a hero and heroine's journey. So it's the full soul destiny activation through your original divine blueprint, and the divine blueprint that goes through those stages of growth. So as people have read the article, they can really feel a part of themselves taking this journey, right, through these different branches of their consciousness within their body. And then at the end, right, it's always complete with suggested rites of passage and avenues for continued support and development with myself and also other associates and colleagues that I'm affiliated with, because I do believe in that partnering paradigm of it takes a village to raise a destiny. So I am networked with phenomenal affiliates all over the world, and I revere and esteem their gifts as much as that I do my own. So I have my pieces that I bring to the puzzle, and they bring their ingredients, and we're one great recipe of love.
Thank you.
Yes. And so my website is speakingtreeoflife.com, and then the Divine Union Foundation Institute is the one that sponsored that free, what shall we call it, the free gift as a result of joining us for this experience together today.
Thank you very much. And I don't want to end this conversation because I feel so great with you. So I would continue hours, maybe lives, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I would like to complete in a recognition and acknowledgement for you. So may all the attention now turn to you, and you receive my gratitude and my appreciation for your willingness to organize this summit so that you can experience yourself being more visible, right, in interviewing all of us, and yet also highlighting yourself, right? You've shown your amazing sensitivity and intuition and intelligence and awareness and wisdom, quote unquote, through all of these interviews. So may all those that are watching also really get and register the incredible skill sets and talents that you have as well to offer everybody as we continue to embark on this greater journey. So thank you.
Yeah, very grateful for this recognition. Yeah, we can't see us, we can't experience us only by ourselves. We need the others to reflect those images. So thank you for reflecting me that, because I don't know that. So thank you very much. So I thank you, viewers, for being part of that, for being in that journey together in order to build this, let's call that, beautiful world, new world, this pillar of light. And yeah, let's remember that we are made of love. We come back to love, and let's shine this beautiful light outside our heart into the world we are creating right now. So thank you very much for being part of that co-creation. Bye-bye.
My pleasure. Bye.